Richard Hughes, who is going to be posing a series of questions. Richard, I'm so glad you're here, to 7 panelists. And Richard, I'm going to let you take it over. Well, actually, I'd like to tell a story, first of all, because I want to make sure that our first panelist, Bruce Burke, is on. So I do want to tell my experience with e-bikes, and that is, first of all, I don't own an e-bike, but I think sometime in the future I will. I think it's part of a pathway that I'll move toward. But my introduction to e-bikes happened in the San Francisco Bay Area about 4 years ago when I was riding a trail called Crockett Hills. And I came across a couple in their 30s, and the man was riding an e-bike, and I said, wow, what is this? Because I was a little skeptical of this technology. And the young man in his 30s said, well, I've got a congenital issue with my foot, and I don't have a capability with that foot to power through a pedal stroke. But I love bicycling, and an e-bike has allowed me to do that. And I was like, wow, this is great, a solution. And the next day I was riding another trail system in the San Francisco Bay Area called, what was it called? Patterson Ridge, I think is what it's called. And I'm climbing a gravel road, and this guy rolls past me, older than I was, but riding super fast. And I try to catch him, and his buddies catch up to me, and they're like, you'll never catch this guy. Ultimately, I did catch him. I rolled up to him. I saw he had an e-bike, and I said, wow, what's going on here? And do people abuse you a little bit about the fact that you ride an e-bike? And he said, yeah, I take the grief for it, but I'm in my 70s. I have a heart condition. I've been mountain biking for 30 years, and the e-bike for me is the solution to keep me riding. And as I continued riding with the guy, he could climb on this device, but he was an amazing bike handler. So that was my introduction to e-bikes, and it really opened up my mind. I'm now seeing them used as an application all over the place, and they're being widely accepted. So that's my story, an introduction of electric assist bikes. I'm eating up a little bit of time here. Is Bruce available? And Richard, are you ready to take over and ask some questions?
I'm ready. I'm looking for Bruce.
All righty.
Can we bring Bruce on?
I'm bringing him on now.
Okay. Yeah, Bruce, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How about your picture? Can you put that on, or is that possible?
I don't know what I need to do to bring the picture up, but I have the camera here ready if you can explain how to do it.
Probably when you came on, it would, let's see.
Okay, I'm getting it. He's bringing it up now. There we go.
Okay, great.
Hooray, Bruce is
hey,
here.
Bruce.
Bruce,
Right.
it's good to see you.
Thank
Good to
you,
see
Bruce.
you too.
Hey, thank you for agreeing to do this. So anyway, we've got 3 minutes per panelist. So let me start off with one of the first questions. And why do you ride an e-bike?
Well, the short and simple answer is just a heck of a lot of fun. I ride an e-mountain bike, and I've found it's increased my enjoyment tremendously. Well, one of the things I always had a problem being, the older persuasion and getting weaker as time goes on. I have a hard time keeping up with a group of people on a mountain bike ride. And usually, if they go up a hill, I'm the last one up the hill. And as soon as I get there, everybody takes off, and I still haven't had a chance to get a rest. And, it's just like that, all day long. But getting an e-bike has allowed me to more or less keep up with everybody and, get the rest I need when I get to the top. And, contrary to some people's opinion, e-bikes, aren't just a piece of cake. You still have to pedal and put some effort in order to go. So you can't move without pedaling. So you're going to get some exercise. So it also, I find it's helped me develop skills. I'm not constrained to just struggling to keep my energy up. I can pay more attention to what kind of skills I need to develop. Getting around switchbacks, going uphill, things of that sort. And finally, I get to ride further and longer. It saves your energy and lets you enjoy it a lot more.
Okay. Well, great. Okay. Well, we're getting close to 3 minutes, so I'm gonna thank you for chiming in and giving us your experience with why you like an e-bike, and thank you very much, Bruce.
Hey, thanks,
Welcome.
Bruce.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Okay. The next one to bring up, and I just got a call from her on my phone, is Pat Ash, so she might be having trouble getting on. So Shane, do you see Pat Ash in the green room?
All right, let me check here real quick. Nope, I do not. Let's maybe move on to someone else, and I can.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on to Mike Lee.
Let's see. Also, let's see. I don't think is in there. I think there's only a couple people that I can't tell the full name. If people can, any panelists that are on in the attendee list, if you can change your name. But yeah, I don't see Mike Lee in there either.
Okay.
If you are a panelist and I don't see you, your name's been mentioned, you can raise your hand and that should let me see you. I did have one question come in from Harriet that if you want to answer questions now or save those towards the end.
Dennis, what do you think? We can take them now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do a question. That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. So the question from Harriet was, I took a tour in Bon Air with an e-bike. Unfortunately, they were a bad design, required pedaling through the motor at all times, so there is no option to pedal without assist. Is that a common problem?
To pedal without did I understand the question? In other words, she wants to pedal without the assist?
Yeah. So because I think that I'm guessing that if it goes out or, if you don't want to use the assist, it's really difficult to pedal. So is that a common problem?
I've ridden a few, but I don't have enough experience to answer that. Maybe I think that's a question we'll ask our next panelist when we get them up.
I can see that Lee Wilkinson is biting the bit. He's ready to answer that question.
Yeah, and I actually see Greg Magnud is raising his hand as an attendee.
Okay, why don't we bring Greg in?
All right, I'll bring Greg in. See, he's there. I'm going to ask him to start his video. There we go.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, maybe you could answer one of the questions that just came up. Let's see. That was.
You might have heard as you were in there. Did you catch that question?
Yeah, about the being able to pedal without the assist.
Yeah, without the assist, yeah.
So I actually train my folks to start with the motor off just because of the extra torque that's put on the drivetrain. So yes, you can. What you're feeling is you're going from, a bike that would weigh, 25, 30 pounds to a bike that's closer to 60 pounds. So it's a tremendous amount more weight that you're pushing around. So that's why it's so much more difficult without the motor. I've tried riding around downtown a little bit with the motor off, and it's some work, but it is possible. That answer?
Yes. You contacted me about you were getting some bikes for the police department. Could you tell us about that?
Sure. So I'm one of our downtown sergeants, and most of our team is on bicycles. And I looked at a few of the e-bikes. I was very resistant to e-bikes. I mean, you can kind of see my set of speeds up there. Just that purist in me that like, I don't need an electric motor, but tried them out. So we've since acquired 4. We have 2 Treks and 2 Specialized. I wanted to try a couple different brands just to get an idea. So we're trying them out right now. And as far as for work, I'm sold. I mean, the application for what we do is an amazing tool. So.
Okay. All right. Trying to find my questions here, where they went. That's on the job, right? You're with the Eugene Police Department as a sergeant, and that's on the job. How about when you're off the job? What type of, do you have an e-bike for off the job?
I do not. Nope. I've only used them. I've only test ridden them and used e-bikes at work. So
okay.
I can certainly see applications for outside of what we do. I think the commuting aspect of them is phenomenal, just by the type of riding we do is kind of going, and you don't want to wear yourself out or get super sweaty and that kind of stuff. So I could totally, for people commuting in, I think they're a phenomenal way to be able to stay on the bicycle, get some exercise, be out, not driving a car, riding the bus, especially at this time where being outside is really highly encouraged and that kind of stuff. So I think there's a huge benefit to the e-bikes in that regard.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you, and keep the peace, and doing a great job out there for us.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Richard, I should have left Greg on there. There was a question that just came in for him of whether the fire and paramedic program was using the bikes.
No, I don't believe they're doing anything. They did get an Arcimoto. The fire department did for their kind of rapid response, smaller arrival. So, but I don't think they've gotten into the e-bike stuff yet. Which they may. I could certainly see an application, especially working football games and stuff like that. It could be a good tool for them there.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Is the Arcimoto, is that electric?
Yeah, it's basically a tandem 3-wheel bike made here in Eugene. It's a really neat idea and design. They did a lot. Yeah, if you look them up, there's a bunch of PR they did with the fire department, because it's the first time they've delved into the emergency services. So it's pretty cool that they're here locally and they're able to partner with Eugene Springfield Fire and have that application. Totally off subject of what we're talking about right now. But
no, that's okay. That's okay. You brought it up. Might as well. You're still in the electric mode. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
All right. So, who do we have? Who else do we have?
All right. Let me check our list here. If someone wants to raise their hand again, let me lower his hand. And it looks like, let me look at your list here of who, there's another panelist in the attendee section. Let's see, Kevin Schaefer. Looks like he's, Lee Wilkinson is there.
Well, let's take if Kevin's there, he's kind of next alphabetically. Why don't we take him?
All right. Saw him earlier, at least. Oh, there he is. All right, Kevin, I'm bringing you in. Whoops, uh-oh. I think I brought the wrong person in. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Sorry about this. There we go. There's Kevin. Yay.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Hello, good.
Okay. Thank you for being part of this. And you are a e-bike owner. I know you've got a large, what'd you call it, a bike feeds?
Yep, Buckwheat's a cargo bike. We have
Cargo
a-
bike.
Yep,
Okay.
I have a
And,
three cargo bike family and only 2 people that are old enough to ride it, to pedal them.
you have 3 cargo bikes?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. So, whoa, how far can you go on a single charge?
Always avoid answering this question because I never go that far. You know, I never actually run out. I mean, I have, and you don't want to. My first cargo bike was I got about 8 years ago, and I sold it 2 years ago or so, and it was down to the point where really, if I did 3 miles out and 3 miles back, it had very little power to climb the hill anymore. And I sold it to a family, and I saw that they recently sold it, so it's on its 3rd generation, even as the battery life sort of wanes down. So if you think of having like a laptop or a cell phone, you kind of get to that point where you just have to charge it, all the time. You kind of the bikes will kind of trail to there. My wife's bike, which is sort of is a cargo bike, but it's a Bosch. I think it's got to be 20 to 30 miles, depending on it. It very much scales to how much help you're getting. So if you are like driving a car, if you floor it from every stoplight, you use more gas, and your battery lasts that way too. And so if you have a long day of riding and you don't have that much battery, you put it into a very low assist and you go slow. And on a cargo bike, that means you go like 8 or 9 miles an hour. But if you want to use all that assist, it's a bit less. And the nice thing is our metro area is just not that big. So when we've had a trip that was from Springfield way out to West Eugene, we'll take a charger with and just charge at like the person's house we're visiting, whatever. And so the amount of charge seems to always be enough. And my bike is a weird DIY thing, and I went from one battery to a pair of them, and I did some math. I don't know if math was allowed, but my bike, I didn't write all my math down. I didn't show my work. It gets about what is it? I think it uses it's like 30 watt hours per mile or something, and the battery I have, using that amount of battery, which is a lot because it's a heavy bike and I accelerate away from stops and that sort of thing. It's something like 30 to 50 miles with that pair of batteries of, being a bit on the wasteful side.
Okay. Well, good. All right. Well, we're getting time is up, and I appreciate your information on how far a bike will go.
Hey, Richard, I've got some questions coming in, and I'm just going to filter them into you over some time while you've got different panelists on. So
okay, why don't you go ahead and if maybe Kevin can answer those.
Yeah, the first one that come up here is, does anyone have a preferred brand or setup? I've heard several different opinions, and I'm curious, and this is from Webb.
I have strong opinions. I feel like it's a good idea on your first bike to get something like, if you only have one e-bike, to get something like Bosch, because they just don't tend to have problems. I had a Bionics before and it had a lot of weird problems, and the Bosch has never done anything wrong.
Excuse me. So Kevin, you're talking about the motor, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So that's the thing
that's not the brand of the bike. That's the motor.
Absolutely. And that's an important thing, is that with most bikes, you'll find it's one of a couple makers for the assists. And at this point, it's mostly Bosch and Shimano. Whereas like Specialized, their bike, they have their own mid-drive setup. And then in town, I see a lot of like Magnum bikes, which are their own thing, but or like a Rad Power bikes. They're their own thing, but they're more like a conventional DIY bike than especially than the Bosch or Shimano. But I find getting one of those sort of good brand ones for your main bike is a reasonable idea. I once we bought that main bike that was that, I went to a do-it-yourself approach so that I could get any battery I wanted. When my battery dies, I can buy it from anyone, and it costs about half as much. And so that's
So,
why I have two.
so what you're saying is if you get these are proprietary parts to a particular brand?
Yeah, yeah, and I can credit someone from Bike Friday that I talked to that really sort of planted this idea in my head, because they won't sell an e-bike that uses a proprietary battery,
Okay.
which I think, is great, because that means that 10 or 15 years down the line, the bike that they sell, maybe that same motor still works and you'll be able to get a battery for it. Or maybe that motor that isn't working anymore, you'll be able to get a different motor for it. And that, especially as someone who's in the cargo bike world, cargo bikes can last. I mean, you can use a 30-year-old cargo bike just fine. Like they're really they're kind of a big tank, and there's not necessarily technology. And so our fancy German-made Riesenmüller Paxter with a Bosch motor, 15 years from now, it's hard to know if it will be useful for anything, because the motor will probably be out of support and batteries might not be available. But my bike is a Setmo, which is locally made, and it didn't come with a motor, or it actually, I bought it used with a Stoke Monkey, which was developed at Clever Cycles up in Portland. And that I took that motor off and put a different one on, and it can have a long life of whatever's the right thing for the next owner.
Okay. Well, thank you. Shane, is there another question?
There is one more that's for specifically for Kevin. So before we boot him off, I'm gonna
Okay.
we'll let him answer that one, and then I'll also after that throw up some polls. But
Okay,
the question
great.
was, Kevin, how much weight can you carry on your e-cargo bikes? Question from Lee Wilkinson.
They tend to be limited to like, I think the German one we have has an actual amount, and it's 100 kilograms, so 220 pounds. And I would say it's a stiffer frame than my steel one. So I don't know if the steel one could carry more, but it just gets really noodly and flexy, and which could be a little scary. But it's around 200 pounds, so you can have an adult passenger, and steering is a little hard. But once you're going, you don't really notice too much.
Okay. All right. Words of wisdom when you buy your e-bike. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. So, Richard, I'm going to throw up a couple polls just so we know sort of who's watching and what their experience is with e-bikes.
Okay.
Sound good?
All right.
So I'm going to throw this first one up there. Just asking folks, so if you're an attendee, you should be seeing a poll come up that says, do you own an e-bike? Yes, yes, more than one, or no. And those answers are rolling in pretty quick here. So should be able to show those results in a little bit.
So they just put that in the chat? They put the answer in the chat or what?
No, there's actually a poll that pops up for them to take.
Oh, okay.
And it looks like most have answered, so I'm going to close it.
Okay.
There we go. And there's our results. So they should be able to see the results there. Let me see. There we go. So
Wow.
sounds
Hey.
like 4 people own an e-bike, a couple own more than one, and most of the folks on don't own an e-bike. So
Okay.
for those who do, let's get that next poll up here. And that is, oh, actually not, this is for everyone again. If are you considering buying an e-bike? Maybe you already own one, you're definitely considering, you're thinking about it, not really, but interested in the topic. Interesting. All right. And I think that's everyone that's there. So, so we've got definitely considering a couple folks, some people thinking about it, and a couple that are, or a few people that are not really thinking about it, but are interested in the topic. So a good wide mix with the few folks we've got watching. Let's see, there we go. There's the poll results.
Got it.
And then I'll throw one more poll up. And this will be our, if you are considering, which kind? So if you're considering purchasing an e-bike, what kind are you considering? There's so many different kinds of e-bikes out there now: mountain bike, road bike, city bike, cargo bike, family bike, adaptive, other. Ooh, someone said other. I'm curious what that is. I'll give a couple more seconds here for this last poll. Folks can answer that one. So I think all the people who were considering have answered. And maybe if you're not considering, what one would you buy if you were considering? And I'll get ready to wrap it up. There we go. Oh, very interesting. So the majority are cargo bike or family bikes, a couple road bikes, a mountain bike, and a city bike. And if you answered other, leave something in the chat because I'd love to hear what that other would be. All right. We did have some other questions come in, Richard. So we can either answer those, or but maybe we should bring on another.
Yeah, let's bring on another panelist. Let's see, who would that be? That'd probably be Lee, I believe, Lee Wilkinson.
All right. Working on that. There we go. All right, let's see. Lee is in, and I'll ask him to start his video and unmute. And then I'll take a look at our attendee list and see if who we have up next.
I did get a call on Pat Ash was not able to get on. She tried several times. So,
Okay.
So if you can look for Mike Lee or Greg Maynard, those are the other two.
There we go. There's Lee.
Hello, Lee.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well. Great to see everybody.
Hey, you in Seattle?
You like that? I got a Star Wars background. I'm a sixth grade teacher. My kids love it. So, you know, can you guess the episode though? What is it from?
I can't.
I can't remember either. We'll leave it.
I don't know, and you can't remember. Okay. All right. We've got a few questions for you. Shane, sure. Can you let Lee have those questions?
Yeah, let's see. So I think this one was answered last, but I just want to bring it up again because I think someone had asked about the how long can you ride a cargo bike on a charge, but then also how far in general. So someone just looking for a little bit more on that one.
Sure. You're looking for my perspective on that, or?
Yes. Yes.
Sure. Well, I'm really into the off-road scene, in case you haven't noticed. So I have an e-mountain bike. My best mileage so far has been about 25 miles. And that's with roughly 4,500 feet of climbing all off-road. So I can go a ways. Yeah, I'd like more, but right now, that's been my best effort so far.
Okay. All right. So how long does it take you to recharge your battery?
Sure. So I ride a 2020 Specialized Turbo Levo 700 watt hour battery, and mine will fully charge in right around 3 hours.
Okay. So do you recharge it when you get home, or you don't have a battery pack that you can charge it at the trailhead or anything?
I don't. Yeah, so I charge mine when I get home. You can hook them into generators, like a common household Honda generator or something like that with an inverter. And I've heard of people doing that who are out camping. Some people are going to solar panels, I've heard. But I don't have any info on how long that takes if you have a solar system.
Okay, so just to recap, you can go about 25, uh, about 25 miles
Mhm.
with maybe 4 to 5,000 feet of climbing.
Right. And then again, you've got to consider they have different modes on the off-road e-bike. So you have an economy setting, you've got a trail setting, and then you've got turbo. So you just can't hang out in turbo all day, although that's a lot of fun. You've got to vary your your throttle usage to maximize your mileage. Yeah.
But if you maximize your throttle, you're not going to have as much fun, are you?
Yes, that's a thing. Yeah. So primarily, like on a 25-mile ride, I may be going up a big fire road. So I'm in economy because I want to get to the top. As Bruce Burke mentioned earlier, it's still a workout. Last trail I rode was Lawler, so climbing up Patterson Mountain Road, if anyone has ever done that on a conventional bike, that's a struggle to get up there. And even in my e-bike, in economy, I'm still having to stand up and work the bike, and I'm working pretty hard. And then so I save my juice, so to speak, for the trail, and then I will kick it up into trail. And every now and then I'll hit turbo too if there's something I really want to get done.
Okay. All right. Did you want to add anything about Disciples of Dirt? You got a couple seconds here.
Yeah, sure. Disciples of Dirt, we're a small nonprofit here in Lane County, and we do a lot of trail work in the area. Example of that, and e-bikes. I'll throw this in today. I was using an e-bike today to shuttle tools and water and supplies. So something that would take me 20 minutes, 25 minutes to walk in and hike and get my supplies, I did it in 4 minutes today.
All right.
With the so it's saving me time. They're a great tool and a resource too. I'll leave it at that. Thanks, you guys.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Hey, Lee, Dennis here. I want to
Yeah.
ask another question and
Sure.
kind of circle back to an earlier question. And that is, when the battery power is gone, what does the bike feel like? I mean, is it worthy of riding, or is it day over?
It's equivalent to pushing a cement mixer around. It's not really good. Yeah, I have shut the motor off. I've run mine dry to the red light blinking, and yeah, it turns into a 54-pound behemoth. And it pedals. The Specialized pedals pretty good, but yeah, you're on a 54-pound bike. It doesn't really go well.
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Lee.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate you being here.
All right. And maybe actually before we have Lee hop up, there was one other question that Webb wanted some clarification on, and this is from a previous question that you mentioned separate manufacturers for bikes and motors. And do you know if there are any limits to switching motors between the frames?
I haven't experienced that. You buy into a system like someone mentioned earlier. So I'm on a Specialized bike. I have to run their stuff. I can't maybe I can upgrade at some point, but right now I'm locked into their system. I can't get other batteries or different systems like that. I'd probably void my warranty if I tried to hot rod it or do something else with it. I hope that helps.
So, Lee, do you believe that most of the manufacturers have a proprietary system in their bikes, all of them?
That would be my assumption. Yeah. Like if you're into a Bosch bike, you're running Bosch batteries and what they use.
Okay.
I brought Bruce on here because he raised his hand and I figured
Okay.
he had a good answer for
Yeah,
this.
get Bruce in there.
Hey, Bruce.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I was just going to address the using different motors. In general, it doesn't work. You know, you're pretty much stuck with the motor that the manufacturer puts on the bike to begin with. I know I have a Trek with the older generation of Bosch motor. And Bosch just came out with a new motor this last year. And I certainly wasn't able to switch to it. So you're kind of limited on, whether you can replace a motor with, a new or different motor.
So Bruce, your bike is what, 3-4 years old?
It's 2 years old right
Oh,
now.
2 years old. So you could
Yeah.
not upgrade with a new Bosch motor independently, or you'd have to go back to the manufacturer, or what?
I would have to get a new bike because the bike is designed around the motor. So
Oh, okay. So what you see is what you get and what you keep.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Well, hang in there for a minute. Shane, do we have any other questions?
There is another question that was in there about the difference between, and so maybe these two panelists could talk about the difference between class 1, class 2, and class 3 e-bikes.
Yeah, I can address that a little bit.
Okay.
Class 1 bike would be what they call a pedelec. It's a pedal assist bike. The motors are generally limited in the United States. They're limited to 20 kilometers an hour, I believe, or maybe 30, but 20 miles an hour is what it's limited to. In Europe, they're limited to about 15 miles an hour. A class 2 bike is similar to a class 1, except it's throttle assist. It's also speed limited. And a class 3 bike, if I remember right, I believe it's, I would have to refer to my notes on this, but I think it's a little bit more unlimited and probably not allowed on trails and on bike paths and whatnot, probably more limited to streets.
Let me read you what I found online here for class 3. It's that they're pedal assist only with no throttle, and they have a maximum assisted speed of 28 miles per hour.
Okay,
Does that sound right?
that's probably right, yeah. And then I think there's a class 4, which is unlimited. And I think you have to get a license for that. I believe you might have to get a license for class 3 too, like a regular motor vehicle.
So maybe you could expand for the audience on the difference between a pedal assist and a throttle so that people would understand that.
Yeah, pedal assist, the motor won't run unless you pedal it physically. If you stop pedaling, the motor stops running. And as Lee said, most of the bikes now have different modes that you can use. So you can kind of regulate how much power you're getting out of the motor. And the modes can go from off to eco to trail to boost or whatever. The throttle assist is just what the name implies. You don't have to pedal. You can just use the throttle as you would, say, on a motorcycle or something. This is especially handy for somebody who's paraplegic, can't pedal. They can use the throttle to make the bike run. And there's a pretty well-known personality in England who's used to be a guy named Martin Ashton, who used to be a trial specialist. He had a bad accident, broke his back, wasn't able to pedal anymore. And he's now riding his bikes again using throttle assist, throttle assist electric bikes.
Wow. Well, that's thank you. That explains the difference. That's very useful. So if people are looking for an e-bike, they should know the difference besides the different motors and what have you. But okay. Well, thank you, Bruce. And Shane, do you have any other questions for the panel?
Well, we do have one other one. I just want to see, do you want to try and bring do you have any other attendees that you want to bring up to panelists, or you want to answer this one first?
Well, let's see what the question is and we'll see.
So I just put it up there. It's going back to repairability. If the bike breaks down on the road, how easy is it to fix? Or do you have to call a tow truck? Or
Well, Lee, why don't you answer that? I think that depends on what breaks.
Yeah, they're pretty much like a conventional bike, except for that motor, and that's the big thing. If it goes out, yeah, I don't know what to do. I mean, I have the Specialized system. It has the, Groza motor system in it. And if that fails, I don't know what to do. They're self-sealed too on my particular unit. They don't even want you going in there and messing around with it. So it's kind of game over, at least on that one.
Okay.
yeah, I think, and I answered a question that someone was asking about. I think a lot of this depends on what kind of bike. Like, some bikes are, I think, pretty easy to ride without the pedal assist, and, they're heavier and, maybe a little drag, but, other bikes are really difficult to ride without the pedal assist. So I think it's the classic, it depends.
Right.
I have something to add that came up with Cycle Oregon and Bike Rides Northwest, who do the week-long rides that some of you have done or know about. Talking with Jim Moore, who's the executive director of Bike Rides Northwest, and he spent many years with Cycle Oregon. He's been getting requests, although they didn't do any of the rides this year, but they were preparing to do it. And one thing that happened is they got a number of requests from people wanting to bring e-bikes on these week-long rides. And they actually had to take it case by case, but it creates another logistic problem for them because they have nowhere to charge them out in the field. So unless someone brought some way to, some method to charge it, and also the SAG drivers have a much heavier bike to deal with to get it on the, get it on the car. So he's saying that he's not saying no, they wouldn't allow them, but it would be someone who would have to have a medical issue or something and a way to charge it, because what are you going to do when you're out, camping along for a week? So anyway, just thought I'd add that. Okay, Shane, how are we doing on other questions?
Got a couple others that have come in. One other, and it says, when are e-bikes appropriate or not appropriate on the bike paths? Ooh, that's a good conversation starting there. What do you guys think?
I think this is akin to what are the appropriate speeds to be riding your bike on a bike path. And, I often think that if it's a multi-use path, anything that starts approaching 15 miles an hour is possibly too fast. 18 miles an hour certainly seems too fast. 20 miles an hour, there's likely to be an accident. So that's how I would answer that. You got to moderate your speed so that you're making it safe for the other users. Anybody else want to throw in with their opinion? E-bikes on bike paths?
I agree with you, Dennis. I agree. Shane, excuse me. I got a note from a Greg Maynard. He's, oh, you got him up. You got him up. Okay. He's available. Greg, are you there?
I am. I'm trying to start my video.
Okay.
See myself, so maybe that works.
All right. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for being patient.
Thank you.
So, what's your experience on the bike paths with riding a bike, and as far as miles per hour or other riders with e-bikes?
Well, I think that it's already been mentioned that you have to use common sense, essentially. And that goes for individuals who are riding an e-bike or a regular bike. I spend a lot of time on the bike paths, and I have all manner of bikes. And if you're approaching a situation in which you have a small child or anything of uncertainty, or someone with their back to you, you need to slow down. You need to tell them that you're coming, and that's all there is to it. Also, isn't it true? Other panelists could chime in. Isn't there a special restriction in Alton Baker Park regarding e-bikes?
Shane,
So there,
Shane, do you know about that?
yeah, there's a restriction in Willem Natural Area. So the area of East Alton Baker Park has a restriction on any motorized vehicles, and that currently, though there was some discussion in City Council a couple weeks ago about looking into that and making adaptations, because the technology's changed so much since that was originally put in place, and they weren't thinking as much about e-bikes then, but more about power assist bikes of other types and motorcycles and whatnot.
Maybe people that have adapted their regular bike and put a lawnmower engine on it or something.
Yes.
But certainly going too fast on the bike path is inappropriate, whether it's an e-bike or a regular bike.
Okay, so Greg, how do you use your e-bike?
I have 3 e-bikes. So the reason I own and use e-bikes has evolved over time. Currently, my favorite is an urban e-bike that I've owned for about a month, 6 weeks. And I own it so that I can basically do all of my errands and shopping and go about all city business on my bike. And if it weren't for COVID, I'd probably be doing a lot of other things like going to the library and so on and so forth, and restaurants. But nevertheless, this urban bike allows me to carry a lot. It'll allow me to carry 60 pounds. I can go very far on a charge, specifically because I had these questions ahead of time. I decided to actually test that. And at 98 miles, I turned off the motor and just rode the bike. I had a predicted range of 117 miles in economy, and I used largely economy, except for a few occasions when I was in tour and sport, because I was in a position where I wanted to get through an intersection faster or whatever I was doing. But 85–90% of my driving was in economy. And I did 98 miles, and then I did another 14 just pedaling, turning it off.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. This bike is very accurate in terms of what it predicts. Now, if it says 117 miles for economy, I have 3 other levels that I can go to, which is tour, and that would probably show you that you had 80. Sport would probably show you were in the 50 to 60 range. And if you were in the turbo range, I would bet that you'd be no more than 35 or 45. And that's just it. If you're going to put the pedal down to the metal, or if you're going to be going up hills, then it's going to affect your overall mileage.
Okay. Well,
Hey,
thank you,
we got
Greg. You got
a
another question?
Yeah, a question for Greg from Lee Wilkinson. What brand of urban bike are you using?
Excuse me, a Gazelle.
Ah, a Dutch bike.
Yes.
And where'd you purchase that? I guess that's maybe a question for the whole panel. Where are people buying e-bikes these days?
The Gazelle was purchased at the River Road location, Electric Bikes of Oregon, I believe, or Eugene.
Eugene Electric Bikes. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and it seems like most shops now are carrying e-bikes. one kind or the other, depending on the shop. And then, so we had a couple other questions come in. One from Sue Wolling about how are e-bikes in terms of theft? Can you lock out the e-assist so that a thief would have to ride away on an unassisted 60-pound bike?
May I chime in on that?
Sure.
The Gazelle bike, the type that I have, has a lock called a cafe lock that comes with it. The cafe lock has a key in it. The key stays in it while you're riding, and when you stop and want to lock it, you are locking the rear wheel so that a bike cannot be rolled away. Then you take the key with you, and just like anything else. I also use the U-lock and lock it to something that you're supposed to lock bikes to. So there's, at least in this occasion, there's 2 levels of protection.
Okay. All right. That's a good answer. Shane, anything else happening?
Yeah,
there?
one more, I think, for Greg. What kind of mileage are people on urban e-bikes seeing? So that distance question coming up again from someone else. So it's obviously a popular one.
What range do you mean?
Yeah. What kind of range are you getting?
What I'm seeing is exactly what the bike is telling you your range is. In this particular model that I own, it adjusts the range that it's showing that you have based on your riding style. So that even if you are using the lowest assist, the economy assist, eco, but your revolutions, you're pedaling really, really fast, it's going to take that 117 and it's going to slap you down to 85 miles, buddy, if you keep that up. But if you slow it down, then eventually it'll catch up to what you're doing and it says, okay, you're a good guy and I'll get you back to 98 or 105. Same thing with going up a slope. Even if you're pedaling fast or slow, that will affect what the bike is telling you you have for an ultimate range. Then you'll go up the hill, you'll come down the other side and they'll say, oh, okay, I see you don't intend on going up the hill the entire 98 miles. So we're going to estimate that you have further to go.
Okay. All right.
So that applies for whether you're an economy, tour, sport, or turbo.
So is that particular feature on all bikes, do you know, or just on this one you have, this Urban Gazelle?
I think it's on many bikes.
Okay.
I mean, the feature that it takes into account how you're pedaling.
All right.
I think that it's in many bikes. I'll bet the other panelists know that more than I do.
Okay. Someone in the chat said it's a Bosch feature.
Oh,
And
well, yes, my motor is a Bosch.
okay. Well, that makes sense. Thank you, Kevin, for that remark. That's very helpful. Okay. Shane, how are we doing on questions?
Great. I think we had one more just come in, and I don't think we've touched on this yet, and I think it's an important one that folks are often asking. So for a good e-bike, what price can you expect to pay?
Okay. Did Mike Lee, by the way, did he ever come on board?
That's a good question. Let me see if I still don't see a Mike Lee in that. If there's any other panelists who haven't been on, but are in the attendee section, raise your hand. But I currently don't see Mike in there.
Okay. All right. He didn't make it. Okay. I was just checking to make sure we got all the people we had listed, and okay. Well, Kevin.
I am going to bring a couple on. Probably want to answer that question too.
All right. So we've got a couple of, we're looking for, I guess, a price range. Is that it? A price range for e-bikes. Bruce, can you chime in on that? You're muted somehow.
Yep. There we go. I'll ask him to
All
unmute.
right, yeah, okay. I didn't get the message there. Yeah. Like I say, I think the price range starts around $1,000, $1,500 for the really cheap ones, and the sky's the limit from there. For a really good bike, a good mountain bike, you can think maybe $5,000, $6,000. Road bikes probably in the same area, for a really good one.
Okay. That's the mountain and road and, okay, that's, so we're talking 1,000 for the entry level and maybe mid-range, probably about 5 or 6. Is that it?
That's right, yeah. I'd say mid-range, because if you really want to get carried away, you can spend $10,000, $15,000 easily.
Oh, okay.
In my, are you hearing this? In my particular case, it's far less than that. And it was 3,500. And I consider my bike to be, I tested bikes all over the city, both cities. It depends on what you want to have done. It's, if you want a mountain bike, then you're asking for a much different vehicle than an urban bike.
Yeah.
But I think that you can get a really great bike for a lot less than $5,000.
Well, okay. Kevin, do you want to chime in on the price range? You're muted somehow.
No, we're getting some funny feedback on you,
Oh.
Kevin. So it says you're unmuted, but we're getting funny sounds. So I don't know if you have some headphones half plugged in or. Yep. No, there's that feedback. Maybe I'll pop you back over to.
Attached to my computer microphone.
Oh,
Is that
there you go.
better?
Yep.
I want to, if you're a bike person, and most people on the panel are we're kind of bike people, and so we're probably going to be picking bikes that are more, 3,000 for a regular bike and 5,000 or 6,000 for a mountain bike or a cargo bike. But I'm really impressed at a brand like Rad Power Bikes that they sell bikes for $1,000, like $1,500 cargo bikes, and people get a lot done on them. They accomplish a lot on them. And I think there's a real value to that. And, it's got parts on it that are not going to last a long time. Bike shops are not going to like you when you bring that bike in so much. But, for people who aren't bike people, they really are successful transportation bikes. And also a plug that I can't find the price on it, but Bike Friday has a new bike coming out that is sold only as an electric with an aftermarket. It's built from an aftermarket kit. And I think it starts at something like $2,300 for a bike that's handmade in Eugene, which is actually a pretty nice feature to get on and you get to pick the paint color, which usually you have to spend at least that much to pick the paint color on a bike, even without a motor. So I think that's a nice plug. On the other hand, if you ever are interested in cargo bikes, yes, every day. And you ever have the chance to test ride a Resimular Load, which is a full suspension bike that you get with a roll-off hub, like, you get it with 2 batteries, and it's like $12,000. It's a wonderful bike.
Okay. Thank you,
Richard?
Kev. Yes.
Is it possible for me to address the question of rideability without a motor or without pedal assist?
Sure. Go right ahead.
And the particular one that I've owned for just a month and a half, I started using it in my bike group, which is Old People's Bike Ride. We do about 20, 22 miles on a road in the country. And I was not using the motor. And it was no problem at all. That bike is perfectly rideable, modest hills, and so on and so forth, with it off. And I often ride it with it off. Now, I didn't when I was testing mileage, because that wouldn't have been
Sure.
the right thing to do. This particular, so I think it depends on the bike that you're talking about in terms
Okay.
of ability without a motor.
Thank you, Greg. Bruce, did you have a statement?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on that and say I also tried taking my e-mountain bike out on out in the valley. And I was able to ride it without the motor on for quite a ways. In fact, almost the whole ride. So I mean, it depends on the terrain and whatnot that you ride in, whether you need to have that motor assist or not.
Okay.
I think from Bosch, I think from generation 2 to the new generation 3, I think they've reduced the drag in the drivetrain. So now on a generation 2, if you pedal, you're pushing the motor. And I think in the generation 3,
Yeah.
you're not pushing the gears on the inside.
So
anymore.
Kevin, what?
Actually in generation 3, you're still pushing the motor, but the new generation 4, you don't have that resistance. So
Okay.
that's the story on Bosch.
So when you talk about the generations, you're talking about something brand new as generation 4. Is that right?
Yeah, generation 4 just came out this year. So, and that's
Okay.
a really super motor. You know, it's big improvement over the other generations.
That's good information. That's really good information.
I have a feeling that's what I own.
Okay. Well, I thank you all. I think we've run out of time. Shane, how are we doing there?
Yeah, we've answered all the questions that have come in. Looks like we've had some good questions that we've answered and some good chat going on over there.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're ready to wrap it up.
Okay.
Thanks, Richard.
Yes. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Dennis.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.